Casey Cep, Furious Hours, Murder, Fraud, and the Last Trial of Harper Lee. Embark on a journey into the web of murder, fraud, and the elusive world of Harper Lee in the summary of Furious Hours, Murder, Fraud, and the Last Trial of Harper Lee by Casey Cep. This riveting book explores the incredible events surrounding the trial of Robert Burns, accused of murdering the suspected serial killer, William Maxwell. Among the extraordinary circumstances, Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, is present at the trial, seeking inspiration for a new true crime novel. As you delve into this summary, you'll discover the strange events in the lives of William Maxwell, his alleged victims, and the voodoo mystique that fueled gossip and suspicion in a small Alabama community.
A bizarre Alabama murder trial. On a hot September afternoon in 1977, a courtroom in Alabama anxiously awaited the verdict for Robert Burns, who faced charges of first-degree murder. The murder trial stood out for three distinct reasons. Firstly, the victim was William Maxwell, a suspected serial killer himself. Secondly, Burns's attorney, Tom Radley, had previously served as Maxwell's attorney. And thirdly, Harper Lee, the renowned author of To Kill a Mockingbird, was present at the proceedings. To understand the bizarre circumstances, a look back at the series of events leading up to the trial is required. In 1970, William Maxwell, a World War II veteran and Baptist preacher with a tainted reputation, lived in Nicksburg, Alabama, with his wife, Mary Lou. On August 3, their neighbor, Dorcas Anderson, claimed that Mary Lou received a call from Maxwell stating that he had crashed his car and needed her assistance. Fearing for her husband's safety, Mary Lou hurriedly left to find him. However, the following morning, Mary Lou's lifeless body was discovered inside her car, brutally beaten to death. The police, upon learning Dorcas's account, immediately suspected Maxwell of the heinous crime. Maxwell firmly defended himself, stating that Dorcas was mistaken and Mary Lou had left that night to visit her sister. He insisted that she must have encountered trouble on her return home, which led to her tragic death. Unconvinced by Maxwell's version of events, a grand jury indicted him for Mary Lou's murder on August 6, 1971, setting the stage for an unforgettable trial. A shocking twist of fate. In 1971, Dorcas Anderson was supposed to provide key testimony against William Maxwell for the murder of his wife, Mary Lou. However, she dramatically changed her story in court, resulting in Maxwell's acquittal. Only 16 weeks later, Maxwell and Dorcas were married, sparking a wave of gossip and suspicion. Dorcas's first husband, Abram, had also died under questionable circumstances shortly before, fueling rumors that Maxwell had poisoned him with antifreeze. Before a tense courtroom, Dorcas Anderson was called upon to testify against William Maxwell. The prosecution believed her account could seal Maxwell's fate for the murder of his wife, Mary Lou. But to everyone's surprise, Dorcas's recollection had taken a drastic turn. She disavowed her initial story, stating that Maxwell had not received a phone call from Mary Lou and that he had arrived home much earlier that night. This information shattered the prosecution's case, and Maxwell was declared not guilty. In the weeks following this roller coaster trial, Maxwell seemed unshaken. A mere 16 weeks after his acquittal, he married his next-door neighbor, Dorcas Anderson. This new union fueled rampant speculation and gossip, as Dorcas was not only the prosecution's compromised star witness but had also been married to someone else just months prior. Dorcas's first husband, Abram, had been suffering from a motor neuron disease and was wheelchair-bound, but his death still raised eyebrows. Just before his demise, doctors had predicted he would survive for another 2 to 3 years. The official cause was listed as pneumonia, but whispers suggested that Maxwell had poisoned Abram with antifreeze. As Maxwell and Dorcas began their married life together, a thick cloud of suspicion hovered above them. Little did they know that their union would be short-lived, and Maxwell's alleged ominous presence around tragic deaths would only continue to unravel. A trail of suspicious deaths. In 1972, Maxwell received a call to bail his older brother, John, out of jail due to drunk driving. However, John died under mysterious circumstances before his court hearing, with the official cause of death being a heart attack caused by excessive drinking. Despite local suspicions, the police couldn't find any evidence of foul play and pressed no charges. Dorcas, Maxwell's wife, also died suspiciously just 8 months later, with her body found lying face down in her car. The autopsy showed no obvious cause of death, and no charges were filed against her husband, who remarried shortly after Dorcas's passing. Rather than starting a blissful married life, Maxwell found himself bailing his older brother, John, out of jail after an arrest for drunk driving in early '72. A day prior to his court hearing, John was discovered dead by the side of the road. Although the cause of death was reported as a heart attack induced by alcohol consumption, many suspected Maxwell's involvement, but the police had no evidence to press charges. The string of suspicious deaths didn't end there. Dorcas, Maxwell's wife, became the next victim when her lifeless body was discovered on the side of the road just 8 months after John's demise. Although her car seemed to have suffered only minor damage, an autopsy failed to pinpoint any definitive cause of death. Again, despite whispers of foul play and local community unrest, the police could not build a case against her spouse. Dorcas's death was reluctantly labeled natural causes and Maxwell escaped prosecution. Maxwell, who now had a dark cloud of tragedy follow him, soon moved on and remarried mere months after losing his second wife. Despite the deaths of 2 wives, his brother John, and a neighbor within just 2 years, Maxwell remained unscathed. The lack of concrete evidence left the community uneasy, but the case remains unsolved to this day. A killer's profitable scheme. After marrying Ophelia Burns, Maxwell found himself living with her and her adopted daughter, Shirley Ann Ellington. More mysterious deaths started occurring in his circle, including his cousin James Hicks and eventually Shirley Ann herself. Curiously, Maxwell held multiple life insurance policies for each person who died, and he continued to cash in on their deaths. Despite this suspicious connection and the mounting body count, Maxwell evaded charges and made nearly $100,000 after his first wife Mary Lou's death. In fact, many of his claims were won thanks to the help of his lawyer, Tom Radney. As Maxwell's fortune grew, he didn't pay off his debts, and people in town suspected that his next hit could be anyone. When Shirley Ann passed away, someone finally took a stand against the thriving murderer. In February 1976, another life was snuffed out, Maxwell's cousin James Hicks. In a sickening twist of fate, all those close to Maxwell seemed to meet tragic ends with life insurance policies bearing his name. The money kept rolling in, the victims kept piling up, and Reverend Maxwell only grew wealthier. The deaths took an even darker turn in June 1977 when Shirley Ann was found crushed beneath her car. At this point, people saw the connection between Maxwell's rising bank balance and the mounting body count. With each victim, another claim was filed with insurance companies. Some hesitated to pay while he was under investigation, but Maxwell and his lawyer, Tom Radney, patiently waited until he was declared innocent before pursuing these cases. In the end, nearly all claims were paid out. Despite his bank account growing exponentially, Maxwell didn't bother to clear his extensive debts or change his lifestyle. This realization led the townspeople to 2 conclusions: Maxwell profited from the deaths of innocent people, and anyone could be next on his list. After Shirley Ann's passing, an emboldened individual decided enough was enough and took matters into their own hands. The days of Maxwell's twisted and deadly game were numbered. Vengeful murder or voodoo madness. At the somber funeral of Shirley Ann, the entire community had gathered to bid farewell to the teenager. Among them was Robert Burns, her adoptive uncle, who bore a loaded weapon, seething with grief and rage. When Lavinia, Shirley's sister, passionately accused Maxwell, a man rumored to practice voodoo, of her murder, Burns couldn't take it anymore. He pivoted in his pew, locked eyes with Maxwell, and fired 3 bullets into his skull. Despite the 300 witnesses to this shocking murder, Burns pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity at his trial. His defense was none other than Tom Radney, the very lawyer who supported Maxwell on previous allegations. Radney argued that the accused was driven mad by Maxwell's sinister aura and his reputation for dabbling in dark arts. To everyone's surprise, one of the most famous authors of the time was present at the trial, watching this bizarre and captivating case unfold. Harper Lee's Perfectionist Plight. Harper Lee, the author of the critically acclaimed novel To Kill a Mockingbird, largely disappeared from the public eye after her book's sensational success. As a young woman, Lee dropped out of law school to pursue a writing career in New York. At the age of 30, she was gifted enough money to quit her job and focus solely on writing. This opportunity led to the creation of her best-selling novel, which became a beloved American classic for addressing the deep-seated racism within the American South and offering a hopeful vision of change through the character of Atticus Finch. Despite the global accolades, Lee struggled personally with the pressure to replicate her initial success, leading to perfectionism that continuously left her dissatisfied with her own work. This drove her to dispose of countless manuscripts, retreat from the public eye, and battle alcoholism. Her father's death only deepened her struggles, contributing to her eventual downfall as a prominent literary figure in the mid-1970s. Harper Lee's true crime venture. In 1977, Harper Lee, author of the famous novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, decided to venture into non-fiction by exploring the true crime tale of William Maxwell, a murderous preacher. Interestingly, Lee had previously delved into true crime writing while assisting her friend Truman Capote with the research for his classic book, In Cold Blood. Lee was unhappy with Capote's manipulation of facts to create a more gripping narrative. When she learned about the bizarre story of Maxwell, she saw an opportunity to prove that true crime books could be both captivating and accurate. When Harper Lee stumbled upon the peculiar case of William Maxwell, a murderous voodoo preacher who was killed at his victim's funeral, she became engrossed in her research. This wasn't the first time she delved into true crime stories. In fact, Lee had played an important role in the publication of Truman Capote's controversial 1966 classic, In Cold Blood. As childhood friends, Lee and Capote supported each other's literary pursuits. When Capote achieved success with his novels Other Voices, Other Rooms, and The Grass Harp, he ventured into non-fiction, covering the chilling murder of the Clutter family in Kansas. Lee, who had just completed her final draft of To Kill a Mockingbird, joined Capote in Kansas to assist with his research. Her dedication and knack for weaving through complex information were evident when she handed Capote over 150 pages of comprehensive insights into the Clutter family murders. However, upon the publication of In Cold Blood, Lee was baffled to discover several deviations from the truth, including fabricated conversations and manipulated facts. Despite remaining loyal to her friend, she vehemently disagreed with Capote's approach to crime writing. In her quest for accuracy, the chance meeting with Tom Radney, lawyer to both William Maxwell and Robert Burns, presented an opportunity to approach true crime writing differently. With her interest piqued, Harper Lee embarked on a journey to create a work that was both captivating and faithful to the truth, showcasing her versatility as an author. The Unwritten True Crime Tale. In September 1977, Harper Lee became deeply invested in the murder trial of Robert Burns, who was declared innocent due to temporary insanity. This prompted her to embark on a 5-year research project about the killings, yet she never wrote about the case. The lack of concrete information on the African American individuals involved and the challenge of gathering credible first-hand accounts burdened her writing efforts. Being unwilling to include supernatural elements, Lee never completed her true crime project, and the story of William Maxwell remained untold. On a hot September afternoon in 1977, Harper Lee witnessed a shocking verdict in the murder trial of Robert Burns. He was declared innocent due to temporary insanity. This verdict intrigued Lee, who spent 5 years researching the case to write a true crime project about the killings. However, her account would never be completed. The struggle to find concrete facts about the lives and deaths of Maxwell's alleged victims, as well as Maxwell himself, proved challenging. Unlike Truman Capote's crime book, all key players in this case were African American. White authorities had little interest in keeping accurate records about Black Americans, which forced Lee to depend on the stories from friends, relatives, and acquaintances connected to the case. Her attempt to gather first-hand accounts led her to another hurdle. Many individuals claimed that Maxwell used voodoo magic to commit the murders. She could not bring herself to include supernatural elements in her writing, as it would distort the truth, something she disapproved of in Capote's work. As a result, Lee's true crime project remained unfinished, leaving the story of William Maxwell untold. With Harper Lee's passing in 2016, the world will forever question why this literary genius never shared another book, the extraordinary story of the Maxwell case lost in the shadows of history.
The story of the murder trial of Robert Burns and the enigmatic figure of William Maxwell is riddled with unique elements, from the role of faith healer and voodoo to the unexpected presence of Harper Lee. Despite her determination to write a true crime novel, the complexity of the case left her grappling for answers and ultimately never completed her work on the project. Furious Hours brings to light the fascinating story of Maxwell, Burns, and the search for truth in a world shrouded with mystery. As you reach the conclusion of this summary, pause to appreciate the intricacies of the lives touched by this dramatic tale, and ponder the impact and legacy of a literary genius like Harper Lee, whose work continues to captivate readers around the world.